Friend Mehdi Hassan, host of Mehdi here on MSNBC. Mehdi, welcome. There's a lot to get to here. So, first of all, explain to us what Gaza life is like when it's not in active conflict with Israel.
So, Alex, it's a great question. It's an important question to consider tonight because what happened in Israel was horrific, deadly, heartbreaking, and the Israeli government is obviously going to retaliate, as you mentioned there. There have already been retaliatory airstrikes, but there's talk of escalation, of a ground invasion, of exacting a price. And you have to understand, when we talk about Gaza in the West, for a lot of people, it's very easy to conflate Hamas, which is a militant group that carries out acts of vicious terror, as they did this weekend, with Gaza, which is a place that contains 2.2 million people, Alex, half of them children. Half of the 2.2 million people are children, and it's one of the most densely populated places on planet Earth. You've got 2.2 million people crowded into 141 square miles. So they automatically become the victims of Israeli airstrikes because it's so crowded, because it's so densely populated. And it's basically like living, Alex, in an open-air prison. And those aren't my words. Those are the words of the former head of Israeli intelligence just a few months ago, Tamir Pardo. He said, "We're treating Gaza like an open-air prison." So that is the context. It is so important for us to remember when we talk about Gaza as some kind of strange, faraway place, people shouting with guns. It's actually a real place with real people, families, and they're living in horrific conditions, Alex. 59% of Gazans live in poverty, 63% food insecure, 70% of young people unemployed, 90% of Gazans have no access to clean drinking water. The UN Secretary General called it hell on earth. How much more hellish is it going to get in the coming days?
Absolutely. We know tonight electricity has been cut off and the like. It was uttered on this program earlier to me that it is a place that is without hope. Does that accurately describe the area to you?
I mean, if you've got 70% of young people with no job, you've got 50% of the territory living in poverty, and there's no end in sight for the occupation, the blockade. Gaza has been blockaded by Israel and Egypt for the past 16 years. They control what goes in, what goes out, who goes in, who goes out. If you're a 15-year-old child living in Gaza, Alex, you've endured 4 conflicts already since you were born in 2009, 2012, 2014, 2021, in which thousands of Palestinians in Gaza have been killed, and you're about to try and survive a 5th one as we go forward these days. So yes, there is no hope, and of course hopelessness is what contributes to the violence, to the fighting, to the sense that you got nothing to lose. And this is not some lefty perspective or Palestinian perspective. Israeli generals, Israeli intelligence chiefs, Israeli terrorism experts have said for years that if you don't give people hope, there is no end to this conflict.
So, Mehdi, the Israeli Prime Minister warned actually civilians in Gaza, certainly those that are near the border with Israel, about what was coming and told them essentially, get out of the way. Here's the question, where are they supposed to go?
Yeah, as Jon Stewart famously said on The Daily Show once, what do you want Gazans to do? Swim for it? I mean, they are surrounded on all sides. As I say, there is this blockade that's been in place since 2007. Egypt controls one of the entries. Israel controls the rest. There is nowhere for them to go. Israel makes it impossible for the people of Gaza to leave. And by the way, people say, oh, well, Gaza, it's not occupied. Why is it called occupied territory? The Israelis disengaged in 2005. The thing is, Israel still controls the airspace, the territorial waters, most of the land borders, the population registry. These are people who are not free. And again, this is not about defending Hamas or justifying Hamas or what. Hamas is a group. Right? There are 2 million people in Gaza, and it's offensive, I would argue it's racist, to conflate all 2 million people there with a militant group that kills innocent people. They are not to blame. And when I see the reports coming out of Gaza that already over 30 children have been killed since Saturday morning, I mean, the response to Israeli kids being killed can't be Palestinian kids being killed. That way lies madness.
It's extraordinary when you talk about Hamas, and I think a lot of Americans don't understand exactly who they are, what they do, the way they run Gaza. So who are they aligned with, Mehdi? What is their influence on everyday life there in the Gaza Strip?
So Hamas have been in control of the Gaza Strip for for more than a decade now. They were originally elected, but Palestinian elections have been a bit of a joke for a long time. And the reality is, right now, a lot of people in the West, we saw Nikki Haley on the Sunday shows today, suggesting this is all Iran. Iran controls Hamas, which is a very simplistic approach to this conflict. Hamas, like any other Palestinian military group, is an indigenous group which believes, rightly or wrongly, from its perspective, believes it's fighting for freedom. Obviously, many of us would argue this is not how you fight for freedom, by killing innocent people. But they see themselves as a resistance group. They are a quote-unquote Islamist resistance group. And therefore, right now, they've been in office for a while. Look, the question you have to ask, Alex, is, what has happened in terms of negotiations with the Palestinians, whether it's Fatah in the West Bank, Hamas in Gaza? There has been no negotiations. A lot of people in Israel thought they could just manage this conflict forever, the status quo ante, just keep Gaza as it is, penned in, people in a cage for years to come. That's just not sustainable. Some of us were saying that for years. Jake Sullivan, Joe Biden's national security advisor, said a couple of weeks ago, well, there's more, it's quieter in the Middle East than it's been for a long time. Well, that quiet was never sustainable. To go back to what you said earlier, when you don't give people hope, they turn to the arms of groups like Hamas.
Mehdi Hassan, this all begs a larger conversation that you and I should have sometime soon. I would appreciate that, but I do appreciate your time now. Thank you, my friend.